Okay, welcome back to another episode of We Don't Know What to Watch, podcast about two guys that watch movies that are assigned to them by a random algorithm from a cool website. With me again is the Lou Abbott to my Bud Costello. I mixed those up, but anyway, here's Kyle Mulford.
So am I Bud Abbott or Lou Costello? Or am I Bud Costello?
I think you're
Confused?
Sundance and I'm Tango.
All right. Cash. All right. So we're going to do something a little different this week. And I'm not just going to go over a couple movies. I'm going to go over all the things I watched this week. And I'm going to try and do Kyle's Quickies. And this is going to be a quick synopsis, a quick little review, then a rating of rent it, stream it, or skip it. Basically, rent it means it was good enough to spend money on. Stream it is if it's on, or if you see it streaming, fine. Skip it is, well, you figured that out. So we're going to start out with The Never-Ending Story. I watched 1984.
Story. Never-ending story. Anyway.
This is not going quick. Directed by Wolfgang Petersen. It's a kid's movie directed by the guy who directed Das Boot, Enemy Mine, Outbreak, The Perfect Storm. So, you know, kids' movies.
For kids.
A kid finds a book and he reads it, and it's this fantasy novel, and he realizes that the fantasy characters actually realize that he's reading their story, and then you get into the whole meta. Ooh, does Bastian know that I'm watching his movie? If you don't know what this is, then check it out because it's fantastic. I'm not even going to say much more about that. It's an older movie. You all know it. This is a high rental for me, especially if you have kids. Please introduce them to this.
Even the part with like those weird statues he finds?
Yeah, a little naked statue never hurt anybody.
Naked statue. Anyway.
Next movie, Death of Stalin. This is a new movie directed by Armando Iannucci. He's the director and writer, and he also worked on created and wrote and directed a lot of Veep. If anybody knows that show, I've heard a lot of good things about it. This is basically about the death of Stalin. That's what the title says, right? And then the comedy that ensues from that. So we got three people trying to vie for the seat. It's a lot of dark humor, and it really works in the first half of the movie. The dark comedy with talking about like the deaths and making jokes about, it seems really bad, but making jokes about the prisons and killing prisoners and all of this stuff, but I still found it humorous
So this is another family movie?
This one's not quite a family movie.
Not quite a family movie?
Jeffrey Tambor, Steve Buscemi, Michael Palin, and there's a great bit at the beginning with a concert being put on, and Patty Considine is in that scene, and it's actually one of the funniest moments of the movie. This one, I'm just going to give a stream it, though, because it kind of falls apart at the last third of the movie and falls downhill from there. Next movie, Only the Brave. This is a true story about an Arizona fire department that fought to become the first certified municipal fire crew to gain hotshot status. And what that is the hotshots are the big teams, usually government-sanctioned firefighters, I guess, that come in to fight the wildfires out in the woods. This was a really good story, and I don't know why people don't talk about this movie that much. It just came out last year, directed by Joseph Kosinski, and stars Josh Brolin, Miles Teller, Jeff Bridges, Jennifer Connelly. Taylor Kitsch was actually kind of good in this, and Andie MacDowell, who we haven't seen her in a while. This one I'm going to give a high rental. Go and watch this. And I didn't know the true story going into it, so if you don't know the whole story, actually watch it without knowing, and the last part of the movie is kind of a gut punch. Super Troopers 2. The Super Troopers are back up to their shenanigans. And if you don't get that joke, then I highly implore you to go watch the first Super Troopers. Directed by Jay Chandrasekhar. Yeah, I don't know how to say his name, but he's part of Broken Lizard. They did this and Super Troopers and Club Dread and Beer Fest, yeah, which are varying degrees of funny. Super Troopers, the original Super Troopers, is actually hilarious. This one follows up, and it's basically the same plot. They stumble upon drugs, and then they have to stumble upon figuring it out. It stars all the Broken Lizard guys, and Brian Cox is great as the captain again. I give this one it's not quite as good as the first one, so I actually give this a low rental, though, because it was still, I had good laughs all the way through it. Next one, I watched Nosferatu. And this one, if you don't know, it's from 1922, so it's been around a little while.
I've actually seen this one.
Hey! What do you think?
I think it's a horror classic, and a lot of classic imagery comes from it. It's probably the first ever real vampire movie. Very spooky, still holds up today. Very fascinating.
Yeah, and it's got an interesting history because it is basically the Dracula story, and they just changed the names, and then they still got sued because it's the same story. Directed by F.W. Murnau. Max Schreck plays Count Orlok, or Dracula. And yeah, I agree. He is still super creepy in this movie. I highly recommend this one if you haven't seen it. Yes, I know it's a silent black and white movie, but if you're a horror fan at all, you need to watch this. And then I watched Suburbicon. Came out last year, directed by George Clooney and written by Joel and Ethan Coen. And that seems like a good pairing, right?
You think it would. I think it was like an old script or something that they had floated around for a while.
Yeah, this is Matt Damon plays a guy in this 1950s idyllic white neighborhood, and a black family moves in next door, and then they're trying to make a social commentary on that because then bad things start happening, but it's completely unrelated, and everything that he's trying to tie together in this movie doesn't go together, and it feels really disjointed, and all of the separate parts that he's trying to interweave feel like they just don't connect. So I'm going to give this one a skip it. Although Oscar Isaac was pretty good as the insurance sales, the claim investigator. And then this last week I went and saw Basket Case at the theater. There's a local theater that plays a lot of exploitation and all of those kind of movies on Wednesday nights. 1982, super low budget, directed by Frank Henenlotter, who directed Basket Case 1, 2, and 3, Brain Damage, and Frankenhooker.
Fun fact, the guy from Basket Case does make a brief cameo in Brain Damage.
I did read that. I have not seen Brain Damage, though.
It's something. I've seen both Basket Case and Brain Damage.
Basket Case is crazy. It's a guy who has a basket he carries around, and in the basket is his deformed Siamese twin that's been he's been separated from, and they're hunting down the doctors that separated them because he didn't want to be separated. And that's basically the gist of the story. And the Siamese twin is deformed and crazy. This is not a good movie. Movie merits alone, I have to give this a skip it. However, if you're into low budget 1980s horror cult classics, I'm going to give this one a high rental. Nice. I love it.
Does that help because you saw it in the theater with a group of people that may or may not have been drunk?
No, it's a little more biased because I grew up on these kind of movies, and these were the movies that I loved when I was a kid. Yeah, I watched this kind of messed up stuff when I was 8 years old. So skip it if you're not into that kind of thing, but definitely if you like the low budget horror movies from the 80s, this is one of the better ones. Then we saw Daddy's Home 2, directed by Sean Anders, who directed the first Daddy's Home, That's My Boy, Horrible Bosses 2, and Sex Drive, if that gives you an idea.
Boy, does he have a sterling track record.
Although, I'm going to say, have you ever seen Sex Drive?
No.
I would only recommend that on the basis that James Marsden plays the older brother of the main character, and he plays the most fantastic douchebag older brother that you'll ever see in a movie. But that's beside the point. Daddy's Home 2, Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg are co-parents, and they're finally working things out after the first movie, and then their dads, Mel Gibson and John Lithgow, show up. I had a couple of chuckles. If you like Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg movies, you're going to get enough laughs that I'd say stream this, but it's a low stream for me because some of the things just didn't work for me in the ending. So those are my Kyle's Quickies. And now...
On with the show. I realized that I never introduced myself. With Kyle Mulford, I'm Noah Saturn. I forgot to say that in my intro. I was too busy thinking about Bud Abbott and Lou Costello. Anyway, on to our main show, and our film for today is called Out Loud. It's from 2013, and it is the first Lebanese film from Lebanon that has LGBTQ elements.
Yes. The first gay-themed Lebanon movie.
Lebanese movie.
Lebanese. Lebanese.
Lemonade.
So it's got a guy going for it. A little bit of history there.
And this is a foreign film, so it is subtitled, so if that bothers you, well, too bad.
Yeah. How about a quick synopsis of what this movie is?
A snowball pitch, you might say?
Snowball pitch, if you might say.
Okay, so the basic snowball pitch is that there's 4 friends, they're hanging out, and then they realize that their lives kind of suck, that they've all had terrible things happen in the past, so they get a lovely lady to come over to their house, they hang out for a while, And they decide, hey, we should just leave and go do our own cool thing. So then, hijinks ensue.
So this is what we actually went for a comedy movie, and this came up. And the thing is this feels like a drama, but they try and put some comedy in there, and I'm not sure that it really works.
But at the same time, the drama parts are relatively compelling.
Yeah, so it works as a drama. So what do we got here at the beginning? The setup is we've got a character named Ziad. Is that how you pronounce that? Ziad?
Zayad. Let's just go for Zayad.
Okay, we got Ziad, and I didn't completely get this, but there's some sort of... is it government or is it criminal? I don't know. Or is it the same thing?
I don't know. I'm unfamiliar with Lebanon as a country, so it's best not to get into any geopolitical things.
Yeah, so Ziad watches his dad get into an argument with his employers, and he watches his dad drive away, and a car bomb.
Out, he says, Dad, no, don't leave, Dad, and kaboom.
And are we to understand, this is where I wasn't completely clear, but I think that since the employers killed Ziad's dad, then they took Ziad in.
Maybe. I don't know. It's kind of vague, so...
Because the family that I think took him in it was the father of the other guy, I believe. Well, who are our other guys?
So we've got Ziad, we've got Jason, who I think he was the one with the long hair.
Yeah, he was very vain. So when we were introduced to Jason, he's like looking in the mirror, and he's got long hair, and talking about how pretty he is.
And he has a line that says something like, the genes of life.
And he just recently lost his wife, so then he is all depressed. Then we've got this artist/musician who is appropriately named Elvis, right?
Mm-hmm. Elvis Presley is in this film.
Yes, so that was not heavy-handed at all, calling him Elvis. And then we've got a guy who works in some sort of food industry, Lewis, and he lost somebody too.
I think his wife left him 7 years ago or something.
Yeah, and so he keeps going into this daydream trance.
Where like his face is black and white, but then everything else is colored.
Yeah, and I thought that was kind of interesting that, that was their depiction, was his face would go black and white, and the people around it, and then the noise would dim, and they would have to just wait for him to come out, otherwise he'll go crazy.
Woo! So eventually comes out of these. He does this like a few times throughout the film.
And he works at this food place, and so when he's there, they do a little food montage. And if you notice in the first half of the movie, we've got like 3 or 4 food montages.
I counted at least 3 food montages.
And every one of them, there's at least like one little sexual innuendo in there. So I think one of them was just simply a plate passing by that was, what was it, like a carrot or something?
Yeah.
With 2
like
little...
a cucumber and like 2 tomatoes.
Yes.
So it looked like male anatomy or something.
So that's our comedy there, is random food montages. And most of the food montages didn't really make any sense.
But they look good. The food looked good.
Oh, yeah.
I'm hungry.
Well, we'll get to when they have this random picnic later. So anyway, they're all getting together, and they go and...
because it's Jason's birthday.
It's Jason's birthday. And so they're meeting at Jason's house, and they're all talking about their relationships and everything. And so they decide to get online and go, I'm going to invite a girl over.
Well, yeah, because this guy needs, I believe, one of them needs a new girlfriend, but then before that, I believe it's Rami, one of them, I forget which one, he comes out as gay. Just like, guys, I don't need a new girlfriend, I'm gay. He's like, oh, okay, that's cool.
They're like, whatever. Well, and he's the one, I believe, whose family is the one that took Ziad in, because he's got the like criminal family.
Yeah.
So they meet there, and after they're talking about all that, Jason's lost his wife, and Lewis's girlfriend or wife left him, and the other guy's gay, so I guess this doesn't play into that. They decide they're going to get online and invite a girl over that they found on the internet, and this happens really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it works like this, but you get online and you say, hey, come over to a house with 4 guys, and
by goodness, then she does.
And then she just shows up, and
Then she shows up, and then they start talking, and then she seems like a nice person. They talk about stuff. Goofy hijinks ensue because the 3 straight guys are like, hey, she's pretty cute. And like, oh yeah.
Yeah, so they're all trying to win her over, and then Jason, well, they're all saying, how you got to win over girls and stuff, and so you got to tell a real story, that they're going to get into. So Jason tells his sad story about his grandpa dying on a rock.
Yep.
Foreshadow.
Seems like everyone gets their own sad story or flashback in this movie. It's like, oh, this person is sad because their wife left them. This person is sad because their dad died. This person is sad because their grandpa died.
Yeah.
Everyone's sad.
Everyone is sad. Well, that's where this random girl comes from. It comes into play is cheering everybody up. Well, we find out that Rami is actually in love with Zayad. So Elvis invites Zayad over.
Mm-hmm.
And he shows up, but he's been beat up by his cousins, I believe.
Yes, I believe he's beat up by Rami's family or someone's family.
So he comes all beat up. So then we go to the next scene where,
now it's time for a birthday party.
That came after the scene in the kitchen, though, where they were talking about...
hey, he should come over.
Yeah, and when he tells a sad story, and then all of a sudden they go into their routine where the other guys are popping their head up over the countertop.
Yeah, because
and then she bonks them on the head with a spoon because
it makes a bong, bong, bong.
Well,
this film it's kind of hard to watch almost because it's so all over the place.
And that's where I say the comedy doesn't work is because it's just all of a sudden. Because then we got Jason's birthday party and they bring out a penis cake. I thought that was a joke you do at like bachelor parties or something.
Well, I mean, everyone loves a cake.
And then they start joking around and they're smearing cake on each other's faces.
And then Jason gives everyone else gifts because he's that kind of cool dude.
He is that kind of cool dude. But then after all of the joking around, then all of a sudden they go into this serious discussion about Rami and Zayad leaving because they love each other, and that's not going to go over well.
Especially in Lebanon, which is a bit more conservative country, so unfortunately.
Yeah, so they go into this serious talk about how they're going to take off and try and find somewhere else to live. And as they're telling that little story about like leaving and all this seriousness, then someone says, "Wait, can we play first?" And we cut to them all rolling around on the floor.
Woohoo! We're like, all right, so
playing like a bunch of children.
Of leaving, there was like, okay, well, I guess we should all leave then because we don't like it here for whatever reason. So then they play on the floor a little bit, and then they put makeup on each other so they can disguise themselves as they get in the car and try to leave.
And I wasn't sure how that disguise works. You just draw a little star on your face with some paint, and all of a sudden no one can notice you anymore. No one recognizes you anymore.
I assume it falls under the Clark Kent School of Disguisery.
So we...
like, Kyle, if you took off your glasses right now, I wouldn't know who I was with. Who are you? What'd you do to Kyle?
I don't know. I can't see anything.
Kyle, you're back.
So they're painting faces. Painting faces, having a good time. And then before they leave, Elvis and Lewis have a little conversation. And then I don't remember what they're talking about, but they cut to a close-up of Lewis's face, and there's a single tear coming down his cheek. After all this, romping around and painting faces and everything. And then they go from that serious conversation, and this is where it cuts again, where they're going out to the car, and instead of just getting out to the car, they're running around like a bunch of buffoons out the driveway. Like it's one of those like Scooby-Doo things where they're going off this way, and then they come off this way, and all they're trying to do is go to the car that's parked in the middle of the
And then they find out that it was old man Jenkins the entire time.
And this is actual dialogue from the movie. Watch out for banana peels. And then someone else says, watch out for mines. And then the watermelon might explode. So even within that context, we got watch out for banana peels, which is all jokey. And then watch out for mines, which is probably
not
real.
Jokey, yeah.
And we'd probably say that around here and go, whatever. But there, it's probably like, no, there's probably mines.
Yeah.
So again, comedy, serious, like back and forth.
I mean, you can do comedy and have serious moments fine. I mean, Shakespeare did it all the time. There can be comedic moments, but it's just really hard to pull it off correctly. And unless you do it, I guess, have smooth transitions between the two can almost seem like tonal whiplash. And that's kind of what it felt like here sometimes.
Yeah. So they drive off after all that. And Zayad's cousins, who beat him up previously, see them take off, and they follow them. And so they're driving off, and they lose them.
So there's a brief car chase.
There's a brief car chase, is very brief because they lose him pretty quickly up in the hills. And all of a sudden they're like, okay, well, we'll just wait here until, things pass over and everything. So they have a picnic. Where did they get this food from? Because
I assume they brought it with them.
They're running away and they bring like a little portable grill. He's cooking eggs.
I bet they stopped at like a 7-Eleven, picked up a few things, maybe like a...
While the cousins were chasing him?
Or like a Bass Pro Shop, that's the part they cut out,
Did the cousins like stop chasing him for them to do that?
I assume, or maybe like they all went to like Bass Pro Shops together, and that's where they saw the cousins at first, and then chased him afterwards.
Well, this is kind of a bonding time for it too, because they have their little picnic, and then all of a sudden, Jason starts singing, and Elvis starts playing the guitar, and then they go into like this music video like montage type thing, where there's a lot of the staring off into the sky, and like they'll have like
very nice scenery and vistas.
And there'll be 3 of them standing in a row like you wouldn't normally stand, just staring off into nothing, so that Elvis can sing a song and they can have a nice shot of them. And I have to say, before we go to that, where they're going is to this girl's... Now, what is the girl's name? She is...
Natalie, I believe.
Natalie. So this girl that they just met online, and then there's 3 guys vying for her love.
Mm-hmm.
She says, oh, I have a little villa outside of some... I don't even know where... I don't remember where it was. And no one would ever find us there. So she's willing to go off with these 4 strangers. 4 strangers, Keziah, Elvis, Lewis, Jason, and Rami. 5 strangers. 5 strange men. She goes, oh, I've got a little villa where no one will find us. Well, yeah, they'll never find your body either. You just met these guys.
To be fair, though, it was a pretty good music video.
That wasn't... Well, and then they talk about being together forever, and they write that on the rock up there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then when they leave there, they can finally leave, and they take off again, and they stop at like this little park with a statue, and they go into a dance sequence, which is almost like another music video.
Yeah.
So he turn on the radio in his car?
Something like that, and then they have a dance party.
And it's like, and the lighting changes, so there's like blue light and red light coming up, and it's almost like a dance floor out there. And then they go into this dance routine, and everybody's dancing. They're trying to dance with Natalie. All the straight guys are, and then Rami and I think Rami and Zayed actually get their dancing moment here.
I actually thought this moment was actually relatively sweet. I mean,
it was, because I thought this was almost a better bonding experience than on The Rock, because The Rock was straight up music video.
Mm-hmm.
This was more about like connecting to each other.
It did feel a bit more organic than opposed to...
And you got a little bit of Lewis coping with his girlfriend that left him, because he goes off and like starts dancing, and then he does the black and white face, and then you see him in this dreamlike state dancing with his girlfriend that had left him, and then it cuts back to him actually dancing by himself, and so he's dealing with his own internal issues there. Oh, and when Rami is watching them all dance, he goes up to Zayed because Zayed wants to dance, and he goes, if this were Germany or California, we could do that.
I mean, you can do those things in Germany and California.
Apparently, it's okay in Germany. We knew California, but
yeah, what do you know?
I guess we learned something there. The funny thing about the dancing, even though this was like a great like connection and bonding scene, is the 3 guys who are vying for Natalie. They're lifting her up and like passing her around like a hot potato. Like, oh, I got her. Oh, you can have your turn. Your turn. And as good as this was, I feel like the sequence was a little too long. It just kept going. Like, it was almost like it was trying to fill in a gap, like, so that this movie could be... Because this was a fairly short movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's only, like, just over 90 minutes, and it kind of felt like, at certain points, they didn't necessarily have enough story to fill out all that space.
Yeah. So that's the little bonding thing, and I get it. It was a weird way to do it, but it worked for the most part. And then they took off from there, and then
they get married.
Out there, well, they show up at her cottage. It's in Zale, Zahel, Z-A-H-L-E.
It's in a Zales at the local mall.
And they buy her a ring.
They buy her a ring at Zales, but they should have gone to Jared.
But I thought that it was funny that they go to her cottage, and when they get there, it's this empty house, and they walk in and they pan across all these garden tools that are hanging on the wall in the foyer. And it was like really slow, and someone's like caressing their hand across them in slow motion. I thought this was like foreshadowing a
big gardening sequence where they go up and try and fight a giant or something.
Or I was almost hoping this was going to turn into like a horror show where she's like, haha, I've got them out here now in my
bury them in my garden.
Remember I said no one will find us out here?
I meant no one will find you.
But it turns out that, no, she's just going to live with them and have all their babies.
As you do.
And they get married. Literally, she says, I'm going to have all your babies.
I will marry all three of you, of the three.
So they're going straight up, they're defying all the rules in Lebanon.
So on, man. You do you.
And good on them, because we got the two gay guys that are getting together, and then we got a woman marrying three men.
They do have actually a pretty nice wedding ceremony. That's a cute sequence.
Yeah, and was that before or after? Because they're in the place for a while.
I assume there's another food montage.
No, because they had the wedding, and then Elvis went out, and apparently his parents are into the drug trade too, because he has to go out and deliver drugs for his dad, and instead he decides to take the drugs and put them on his dad's doorstep and hold up his guitar. And
it's more like, screw you, Dad, I do what I want.
As kind of a defiance, because his dad doesn't like his music. So he's like, no, I'm going to play music. And
well, his dad is kind of more of an R&B kind of guy. Well, he prefers the more like acoustic folk kind of.
The acoustical.
Hall & Oates, I guess, or Simon and Garfunkel.
Then he's got the car, so he's out doing all this stuff and defying his dad. And then Lewis's ex-girlfriend Nada calls. Was it Nada or Nadia? Something like that.
Nadia.
But Elvis has the car. So this was another one of like those humor sequences that really shouldn't have worked. But I was like, what the hell? Because he walks out the house and he looks, and there's a bike right there because the car's gone. So he's like, oh, should I take the bike? And then he looks over, and there's a horse just there. There's just
a magic horse.
There's just a horse. So like we get the scene where he's like, I'll take the horse and ride into town. And he rides in and parks the horse in front of a bar.
I assume, horse parking is kind of like, it's like anything else. The hardest part is always parallel parking. Because you don't want to like scratch the other horses around you.
So then this is his closure moment, because he goes in and meets Nada, who left him 7 years ago. And she's like, oh, I left you for the money. This
guy is terrible. I want you back. I divorced him. Blah, blah, blah.
And she's begging, and he says, no way.
No way, Jose.
I'm taking my horse and going home.
Exactly.
To my other wife. Which actually isn't the wife yet, because all that took place before the wedding.
Of course. Then there's the wedding sequence.
Because then they come back, and Rami is the official for the wedding. And he comes out like wearing a bathrobe. That's his...
that's the best vestment he has.
That's the best you could do. And they have their wedding, and Jason, who is actually like, for most of the movie, he's really annoying and not a great actor. And he admits so at the wedding when they're about to do all the dancing and stuff, he goes, I can't act, but I can dance. And they have a crazy dance where they pass Natalie around again like a hot potato.
Like a football. They play like full contact football with her as the ball.
And then this car passes by. It was like this...
It's like some other party just happened to be coming by.
Some random party, and they all are like, ooh, a wedding, and they come in and they start dancing and they're having a good time, and they're there the whole night.
Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson show up, and then it's just like Wedding Crashers.
And the guys at the end of all this, they're having a great time, and then one of them says, "Who's the groom?" And the three guys go, "We are."
Yuck, 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 yuck.
And then the other people just run away. So like they had nothing to do with the story whatsoever.
It was pretty darn exciting.
And then we have all this excitement with the wedding, and then we have the cousin still tracking them, and they found
the scary cousin.
They found the egg from the picnic.
Not the egg from the picnic.
You see, you shouldn't leave shells lying around.
That's true, even though they are biodegradable. Always clean up after yourself when you're picnicking.
And who ended up leaving? Jason was the one who left.
Jason leaves to go do something, I think.
He got up in the morning, and he went to the fridge to get some breakfast, and there was only a giraffe in the refrigerator and a fez in the freezer.
Crazy weddings, man. Crazy weddings.
I don't know how they fit a giraffe in the fridge, but they did it. So he went to the pastry shop and bought everything in the pastry shop so that he could have a humorous, oh, look, I'm toppling boxes everywhere.
Woohoo!
And the cousins find him at the shop, and they
then this movie just kind of takes a left turn into tragedy.
It does. And this is actually, I'm going to say, this is where the movie actually gets good. And I'm not saying good like what happens to Jason.
It gets interesting.
Interesting. Good in an interesting way. Like there's stakes, and they go more into the drama, which is the best part of the movie anyway. And they take him up and they torture him on some rocks because they're trying to get information about where everyone else is, and he's not going to tell them.
It's like, oh, heck no, I ain't saying nothing, bro.
And so he calls them. I don't know if he's calling to pretend that he's going to tell the guys where they are, and he kind of gives a clue instead where he's at. And we have the earlier foreshadowing of Jason's grandfather dying on a rock. Well,
spoilers.
These guys beat him within inches of his life, and then those inches leave. That was a really bad way to put it.
I guess.
And this was, Jason, I thought, was probably one of the most annoying actors in the whole movie. And his scene where he's talking on the phone and getting all sad and crying.
It was a solid scene.
It was acting.
Yeah, I mean, the acting actually, just in general, the acting, I think, was pretty good from about everybody.
Yeah, in the last 10, 15 minutes of the movie was really good. And considering that, actually, I looked it up, and this is the only credit for all 6 of the main actors.
My guess is they probably had some other work. It's just not on IMDb for whatever reason.
It could be. Maybe they did some high school theater. I don't know.
Yeah, community theater, you know. They were all in the Music Man together. So
Zayed goes off to find Jason because he got a clue from him before Jason passed away, and then the rest of them go. This was the foreshadowing with the tools. They go and get the tools to defend themselves, and they call the police. Well, they never used the tools anyway, so that was kind of a...
Yeah, but I mean, you feel it in the stakes. You feel it there.
It was, because it was trying to up the stakes with the cousins coming, because they did find out where they were.
Yes.
But they called the cops, and Zayed goes to find Jason, and he carries him through the cornfield.
Very dramatic way, and then the cops arrest the cousins, and everyone is sad because Jason is dead.
And it's a really devastating moment because, yeah, maybe the acting wasn't great in this movie, but you really got to
there's a good movie in this. Yeah, there's a good movie in this somewhere.
There really is, and I do applaud them for, what they were able to get in there that was good, because that scene was impactful at the end when everybody is over Jason's dead body, all crying for him and everything. And then from there we cut to 6 years later.
6 years later, and everything is happy. There's a nice drawing of Jason that's kind of on the wall or on the mantelpiece. They're celebrating the kid's birthday. Then you find out that it's
little Jason.
It's little Jason who's turning 6 or something.
And then they pan out, and you see that she's had all the babies.
All the babies?
Yeah. So they're actually all still married to her, and you don't know whose kids those are because she's got 3 husbands. But
they have a nice life, and everything is great. And the end.
But everything's not perfectly great, so there is a little statement at the end that they still are scared because Zayed was on the roof with a rocket launcher while they were in for the birthday party, if you notice that.
I must have missed that.
Yeah, because they cut to the house. It says 6 years later, and they cut to the house, and someone, I think it was Zayed, who was up on the roof, and he had a rocket launcher, so he was still watching over the house. And this was still 6 years later, so they're still scared for their lives. So, I mean, that's saying something about the society that they live in that's so oppressive. And, this was a good...
So would you recommend this movie?
I actually would, yes. It had a good statement about, doing what is right for you despite, what your government is pressing on you. It's a really good message. And
yeah, it definitely does have a good message. And there is a good movie in this somewhere, so I feel like the good enough is it's interesting to watch, but I'm not necessarily saying that you should go out and buy it. So I'd say probably, we watched it on Amazon Prime,
And that's what this is
And
about,
that's
is
probably-
finding stuff on streaming services. That we're trying to find that diamond in the rough, and most of them are going to be rough, but this is on streaming. So this is on Amazon. So if you have, it's a short movie, hour and a half. If you've got the time, some evening, it's not a fantastic movie, but there's a good enough movie in there that you'll find something about it that is actually worthwhile.
Okay, so let's, what do we have next? Let's just set up the thing here.
And we're going to go, what did we go with? We went with,
We're going with the cult movie, just for something a little weirder, a little more esoteric.
And
hitting the button here, and it's The Bride of the Monster.
1955.
Starring Bela Lugosi, directed by the venerable Edward D. Wood Jr.
So, that is today's show.
That'll be interesting. All right. Thanks again for listening. Once again, I'm Noah Saturn. With me here is Kyle Mulford, and we hope you have a good day, and see you next time.